do anything
No, no,
about
no. I'm by a window. That's the one I meant.
it. Oh, okay.
I just changed my angle a little bit.
Okay, looks good. So I think we are live according to my little notification. We're live.
My husband will be happy to hear that.
Oh, good. Good, good,
That
good.
we're live.
So, okay, everybody, this is Beth Phillips, and I am joined today by Patti Koelsch Stoudt, the resident expert about everything special needs and testing in the Pennsylvania Homeschool Support Group. She is so generous with her time and answering people's questions and really calming everybody's fears about wading into the waters of homeschooling in Pennsylvania. So I just wanted to give Patti an opportunity to tell you a little bit about herself and about how she serves the homeschool community in Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Patti.
I am a former, that's the sad part, homeschool mom. I homeschooled our three children for 20 years and graduated all three of them and got them into college. Yay! And two of my children had, I would consider, special needs. One was formally diagnosed and on an IEP, and the other one was not formally diagnosed, and we just dealt with that on our own. And so, according to the law in Pennsylvania, I work with children with special needs down both roads, the ones diagnosed and undiagnosed. And I've been doing homeschooling evals maybe 21 years or so. I can't keep track of that. And testing. And I went back to school in the middle of the whole thing for my doctorate. And my specialty was, my dissertation was homeschooling children with special needs under the Pennsylvania law. So I figured I walked the road. Why not get some credentials in that area?
That's great.
I do about 350 evals a year and maybe about 75 a year. And I love homeschooling and I love homeschoolers.
That's awesome. Do you mostly do the evaluations in person, or have you moved to distance evaluations via Skype and that sort of thing? Have you done that?
I've done a few distant evals, and I'm okay with that. I really like it if it's a family that I already know, because we have that rapport and I know their style of homeschooling. I don't have the right to choose a preference for style of homeschooling, but it helps me to get to know the family so that if I ever got a call from a district, I feel like I can accurately represent the genre that they've developed within their home. So, but I have done a few distance evals and I'm okay with that. I really, really like the face-to-face contact because it makes my heart go pitter-patter.
Yeah, I understand that. And testing, I'm assuming you do that in person, correct? Because I know that my understanding is that at least one of the forms of testing can be done by proctor at a distance, but it also requires a certified test proctor, right? I'm thinking of the MAP test that was recently approved as one of the testing options in Pennsylvania. I don't know if you know about that.
I saw it. I've seen it and I've read up on it. I'm not really familiar with that option. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to do more reading. If somebody asks me a question about it, I go out and dig it up a little bit more. I'm not as familiar with the MAP test as I am some of the others on this.
Are you approved to, or are you qualified to approve special needs programs for the front-end paperwork?
Yes.
Okay.
And I do that distance. I have a website. It's called His Homeschool Center. And on there's lots of free information. Just go and look at it. One of the pages on the website is special needs. And I explain what needs to be done. But also if somebody would like to use my services, the process that we would go through. And I have people email me their IEPs, the most recent IEP, and their proposed objectives. And I go through and double check and make sure that's all cool. And if we need to, we talk by phone again so I can get to know you. And if the districts have questions and come back to me, I can accurately represent your style homeschooling.
Right.
And then I type up a letter, PDF it, and send it, and then they can print that up and take it in with their objectives and their affidavit.
Okay, great. So I thought what I would do is to just explain what I did to satisfy the testing requirements. My approach to it was just as simple as possible. I was lucky to have a lot of people in my neighborhood. My mom lives in my neighborhood. I had a neighbor who, she was a teacher's aide for 25 years, and she supported our homeschooling. So I ordered the paper test, the paper California Achievement Test. I'm not even sure if an online version was available back when I started. So I was lucky to have somebody else be able to administer the test that my kids were familiar with and were really comfortable with. And in the case of both my neighbor and my mom, that it was like a treat to go over to their house and be, special attention, and Lucy make cookies, and my mom would take the kids to lunch afterwards. So it was a special day that it didn't, put fear in their hearts. So that was a great experience for me. And
So testing did not have to be dreaded. Oh no!
Quite the opposite. It was like a special day for them. So I was lucky that way. And I just ordered the paper test from Seton and got the results within a week or two. So my experience with testing is very limited. And that's why I defer to you to answer some people's questions about the various options, why somebody might want to do more than the basic, which is what I did to satisfy the law. I know there was a question somebody had about testing in off years and why or why not somebody might want to do that. And if you have experience with that. But how about, let's talk about, first of all, which other tests you have experience with that are approved on the Pennsylvania Department of Education website.
Let's start with that point. The law requires the state to maintain a list of tests that they've approved, the Department of Ed approves as accepting from homeschooling families for satisfying this section of the law.
Right.
And so we always want to make sure before we put money into a test that it's on the list of approved tests.
Right.
And the interesting thing is the test I give is called the Woodcock-Johnson. And every couple of years it comes out with a new version. And the state has it listed with the version number. So every time I get a new version, I have to call the state and get them to change their list so that we can use either the older, most recent old version or the newest version. So both are acceptable.
Okay.
So I have to be in communication with the Department of Ed on a regular basis. The two that I see being used most often, it is okay to use a Seton or Bob Jones. There are several testing services where you can order the paper tests and have them send the test back in and have them send you the results. Some of those testing services have their own internal requirements. Like Bob Jones, I think, requires whoever's going to proctor or whoever's ordering the test to have a college degree, I think.
Oh, okay.
Which is above and beyond our law for homeschool
Right.
parents to have their high school diploma.
Right.
So it depends on, again, where the parents choose to affiliate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So the most frequent one that I see right now being used is the online CAT test in the website www.academicexcellence. The CAT test is offered. CAT means California Achievement Test, and it's on the list of approved for the state, so homeschoolers can use it. It's about $25, and you get the test results right away if you do the online version.
Right.
There's a timed version and an untimed version. There's advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantages of timed is the pressure on the children.
Right.
The advantages is, especially for the 8th graders, it's a little bit of practice before they have to take the PSATs and SATs, which do have time limits.
Right.
So if you think you want to practice that ahead of time, great for 8th grade. Don't put the 3rd graders under the time pressure. They don't need it. That's my own opinion.
I agree with
that. That's not gospel truth. So I recommend people take the untimed version of the online CAT test. And then you can take your time and log in and log out. If your child fatigues, they don't have to sit there and just do the test consistently all the time.
That was my other question, whether you can approach it a section at a time and sort of And that's the untimed version, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's done on an honor basis. They're trusting the parents that you're not sitting there and doing the test for your child,
right,
and that you're not whispering, because really the test results don't go to anybody but you and the evaluator.
right.
And there's even question about the evaluator part, but I love to see the test results, because I like to say to the parents, do you need help reading this? Do you need help interpreting what these mean?
Yeah.
Not from a judgmental point of view of, oh, your program's lousy, but let's see, and how accurate was it? And does it line up with what you're seeing with, Billy Bob or Susie Q and how they're working at home?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a support and a cheerleader and a coach, not a judge,
Right.
and so.
Well, I think you made a really good point, and I really want to emphasize to people that there is no reason to worry about the results. And you can say,
it's okay.
to worry about the results, and there's absolutely no reason to, if you're going to avail yourself of an online test where you don't have to find another human to administer the test, and
that's the point. That test, I haven't ever seen it in writing, but the test is assuming that the computer itself is a proctor.
Right, and that isn't written in the law, but it's not written in the law. That's how and as long as it's you're testing according to the standards of the company, it's an acceptable version of that. And there really is no reason to, as Patti said, whisper in their ear and try to give them just see how they do, and don't freak out about the results.
In my humble opinion, the only thing that accomplishes is it teaches children to fear tests and to cheat.
Yeah.
And so to me, the only time I see children having anxiety over testing is when mother has done an excellent job portraying that anxiety to the child.
Mm-hmm. But I can see where if a child has experience in a public school setting where it's a heightened level of anxiety for everybody. The teachers are under more stress about testing. So, but there's no reason that it should come from a parent. So
the scores themselves are based usually on a grade equivalency or a percentile rank, and we can go over that more in detail if anybody has questions about that.
I think somebody had one question about that. So they asked if there's a benefit or disadvantage to one versus the other. So yeah, I'll let you go though. You're covering everything really well.
But the whole deal is, I don't care what the numbers say. I really want to see that the numbers accurately reflect what mom is seeing at home with the children. Okay. If they're way behind and mom says, you know what, they're struggling in this area, yes, to me that's a successful test because it's accurately reflecting.
Oh, I see.
If mom sits there in complete shock, then I wonder, okay, mom, are you getting an accurate read? Are you living in fantasy land? To me, test day is mom's paycheck day. If she knows her child is struggling and the scores come in low, it's okay. It's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It's an accurate reflection of where that child really is working.
Sure. Can I ask you a question? And you might have had experience where a parent is anxious or worried about testing in general because their third grader isn't a strong reader or doesn't read at all sometimes, or isn't proficient in the math. And we've talked about even testing on a lower level. So if you're in third grade, you could test on a first grade level if you're concerned about that. But if your third grader isn't reading yet, they're not going to be able to read a first grade test. So have you had experience with that?
I want to back up a minute and go into some theoretical. There's a really good catchphrase that is important to remember for education. First, we learn to read. And then we read to learn. Mm-hmm. And so if a child hasn't learned to read well, and we hand them a program like PACES or Life Packs, and they're expected to do all of their schooling with reading, they're going to struggle no matter what.
Yeah.
The same thing with a written test.
Mm-hmm.
If you put a booklet test in front of them and they're tested on their academic knowledge via the vehicle of reading,
yeah.
if reading is their struggle, it makes it look like they're doing poorly overall.
Right.
There's another type of test. There used to be several what we call individualized tests, individual tests. There was the WRAT, we call it the RAT. I don't think that's on the approved list. That's been dropped. There's the PIAT, the Patti Individual Achievement Test. There's the Woodcock-Johnson, that's an individual achievement test. And that's the one that I administer.
Mm-hmm.
Let me explain a little bit about that, just as a difference in format of test. So, not to promote mine, my schedule's busy enough.
You're pretty limited, yeah.
Yeah. I have other people that I know that are trained to do that. I'll let them use my test, and they can, But the beauty of this kind of test is for the struggling reader. The child reads through the reading sections, and when the reading sections are done, I read the entire test to the child. So we isolate math skills from reading skills.
Okay.
And so with the word problems for math, I read them to the child.
Oh, okay.
And I can adapt it to the child. And I can slow down. If they have an auditory processing, I'll slow it down. And I'll say, here, draw it. If you use Math UC, bring your blocks along with you. We don't use calculators, but blocks don't give you the answer. You have to know how to do it.
Okay.
And so it's very individualized and done one-on-one. And once we're done with reading, I do all the reading for the child. And that way, we isolate it out and don't say their math scores were pulled down because they can't read well.
I never knew that, so that's so good to know. That's so good to know.
The other advantage to this type of test, it takes 1 hour,
mm-hmm.
and we're done, and I score it and give you the scores, as opposed to a couple days, online or taking them. It's kind of weird. It's like, well, how can that happen? But the test is normed around the nation, and it's been around. I've been using it since 1981, mm-hmm. and it's a reputable test. But you can only take that test with somebody trained to give it.
How would somebody find somebody in their area to administer the test if they're interested in that?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. You put the feelers out through the community to say, is anybody trained in the Peabody?
Mm-hmm.
Has to be the achievement test. There's Peabody has other tests. Same with Woodcock-Johnson. They have other tests. It has to be the achievement test.
Okay.
It would have to be through through the grapevine.
Okay. Now let me have you clarify for a minute. The one that you were describing, where you could kind of gauge their pace and read to them after the reading session, is that the Peabody or the Woodcock-Johnson?
It's the Woodcock-Johnson, but the Peabody would be very individualized as well.
Gotcha. Okay. And what is the...
But I'm most familiar with the Woodcock-Johnson.
What is the average cost of either of those to get
for
that
the
done?
Family?
Or let's start with an individual. So say I have one student and want to come to you or somebody else. Is there a range of cost?
It's all on my website. I charge $40 test.
Okay.
And that includes the basic test. The law requires reading/language and math.
Right.
And so I give 6 subtests, 200 reading, 200 language, and 200 math.
Okay.
And that's the basic 40, and that includes the report and a consultation, questions and answers, anything. It takes about an hour to 2 hours per student.
And then go ahead.
And then that's it. That's the cost. If they want to add in timed subtests, they can for $5 extra.
Okay.
If they want to add science, social studies, and humanities, they can for $5 extra for each one of those.
Okay.
And that's that.
And then, so per student, so if a family has 2 or 3 students, is that $40 per? Do you have to test them individually at different times? Okay. I mean, well, I guess
I can club together some of the written subtests, but it kind of defeats the individualized.
Yeah.
Because what happens the minute I put them at the same table, even if they're doing different parts, they compete.
Right.
And so it takes it away. Now, the other thing I'd explain about is if you order the CAT online, you all mentioned you would order a first grade test or second grade test or third grade test.
Okay.
But the Woodcock-Johnson, I use the same test for all students. It's normed for preschool through college age. and I'm the one that's trained to know which items to give. So I would give different questions to the third grader. I would start easy and work till they don't know anymore.
Gotcha.
It would overlap a fifth grader and an eighth grader, so, and that means I can also give them the same test on the off years.
Mm-hmm.
But then what if they remember the questions from last year? Well, I have Form A, Form B, and Form C.
Oh, okay.
And I would just give them the same test but a different form so the questions are different for the following years.
Okay, I see.
And there's no set a level. The test tells you what level the child is on. We just take the same test for everybody. I'm trained which items to give from the test.
Gotcha. Okay. And so then let's talk about the benefit or advantage of using the two different ones. One would be, is it like a composite score or a percentile versus a grade level? Do you have an opinion about which is maybe more useful or?
So the various scores, most tests will give you a whole bunch of numbers and you're like, what does this all mean? It's a matter of which way you want to read it. And the test has to offer various kinds of scores depending on statistical information that's needed. Is it being done for research? Is it being done for score? For the students' grade levels? What is it? I personally love to look at the GE. That means grade equivalent score.
Mm-hmm.
And if my student's in third grade and tests at an 8.9, does that mean I should move my student to 8th grade? No. It simply means my student in third grade was able to answer the questions that the 8th graders around the country were able to answer.
Gotcha. Okay.
But it doesn't mean that if my student's in third grade and scores 1.2, I should put them back in first grade. It's just saying to me they were able to answer the questions that students on this level were able to answer.
Okay.
So it shows if they're running ahead or running behind, but I'm not going to change their placement of where they're working.
Right. I always did wonder about that myself, just with my own test scores from school, and that was never really clarified for my mom. I'm pretty sure about that. She thought we were all geniuses.
Well,
but
and then the PR score, the percentile rank, is the ranking score. So suppose we take 100 students, or all the students in 5/10 of the way through 5th grade, which we need to come back to that question, no matter when in the year they take their test.
Yes.
And we line everybody up on a football field from their grade level that took the test. We want always to see our student around the 50-yard line. It means in ranking, they're right in the middle where they need to be.
Okay.
And the number says how many students answered this, how many students are the same or below.
Okay.
So if I see my students at the 50-yard line, it's perfect, average. If I see my students at the 75 ranking, 75% of the students were the same or below where my student is.
Okay.
But if my student's below the 50, it means that's an area I need to strengthen and work my program to give my child a little bit more practice with.
So those rankings are in discrete areas that you can sort of pinpoint and work on. Is that right?
It depends on how the test is set up. If the test says spelling and they're at the 20th percentile, I better look at my spelling.
Okay.
Maybe ABEC is not cutting it. Maybe I need to look at sequential spelling, or maybe I need to look at spelling you see.
Okay.
And that's the kind of stuff I talk after the testing is, well, is the curriculum you're using best suiting your needs, or are there some other ones out there?
Okay. Well, that's so good. So wait, what was the thing that you had? You said we wanted to talk about?
The timing of the year.
Oh, timing.
So many people say to me, oh, I don't want to test that early in the year. I have to wait till the end of 3rd grade so I know they learned everything.
Uh-huh.
No, because the test, as soon as you enter in the computer for the online test, or I put it in the computer for the kind of test, you have to mark the date of the testing, and the norms will say, oh, well, that's only 4/10 of the way through 3rd grade. So instead of expecting your child to test at 3.9, the end of 3rd grade, we'll only compare your child with other kids halfway through 3rd grade.
Oh, okay.
So the child's not to a disadvantage. They'll say, well, we didn't learn all the multiplication yet. Well, we'll just be based on did we learn the first 3 tables or whatever. The normal sequence of timing through 3rd grade. The child will not be hurt to be tested earlier in the year.
So
Some families like fall testing because then they know how to tweak their program and make adjustments before that evaluation time.
Oh, okay. That's a good point. Very good point.
Plus, I offer a discount in the fall.
Yeah, that makes sense for you too. I guess it's less of a rush then.
But even if they do online tests, there's no right or wrong test to do. But I hear so much anxiety come through our group, Pennsylvania Homeschool Support. I'm like, oh my word, oh my God. Should I not test now? Should I order the lower test or the higher test? And what should I do? You know what? Go with grade level and see how the child's doing. And say, wow, they're really struggling, or wow, they're doing really well. But if you know your child's doing 1st grade, then level, even though they're, quote, in 3rd grade, we get so hung up on the word grade.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but don't have anxiety about when in the year they take their test. Don't think they have to be absolutely perfect at the end of 3rd to know they passed. This is not pass-fail. This is an inventory to say to mom, should I keep going with the program the way it is, or do I need to adjust my program to better support my child's learning style? That's what the test results are saying. It's not, is the child passing or failing? It's how's mom doing with setting up the program?
That's a good point too. There was one specific question about can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. There was a specific question, I can't remember where it was posted on the comments, about the Stanford 10 Online Advanced 2. So, first of all, is that on the approved? So I know the Stanford Achievement Test is on the approved list, but I don't know if this specific version would be. So I guess
I'm going there to look right now.
Okay.
I have it bookmarked. Resources. Test. You said the Stanford Achievement Test. There is no version specified, so any of them would work.
Oh, good. And then her question was whether to get the abbreviated or the complete battery. Now, by abbreviated, is she referring to just like the reading/language and math? Would that be the abbreviated?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then
she would have to look on the website to see what's included in it. Okay. If I'm the one that's ordering that, if it's my child, if I'm putting myself in her shoes, I would say, what am I getting for my money? What is the bang for my buck? Because if I don't need all of the extra tests, it's more expensive to get the complete version, and the version is shorter, and it includes a score for reading, a score for something language, usually written language, and a score for math. Then go ahead and do the abbreviated version if that's what you're looking for. If you want more information, it's what do you want for your child. Okay. But why would I spend more money for something I don't need?
Right. This makes sense to me.
Unless it's something that I want. Then go ahead and do it. It's a free country, and our law has a lot of flexibility in it.
To your knowledge, is that a test that is available online, number one, and can be administered by, if it's a paper test, administered by somebody not certified to administer that?
I'm not that familiar with it.
Okay.
And the other thing to remember is when people talk about the Stanford, they sometimes abbreviate it as SAT, the Stanford Achievement Test, and then everybody gets confused between that and the Scholastic Aptitude Test for high school. Right. So make sure you just call it the Stanford, not the SAT.
Right. So I wanted, before I forget, because I thought about it when we first started talking, another option under the law is to avail yourself of going to the school and taking the PSSA or whatever standardized tests they're giving. I guess some elementary schools will administer the Terra Nova or Iowa test, but I'm not a huge advocate of that. Just because I think it is an environment that's, number one, unfamiliar to your child and tense. stressful. And another reason that I don't advocate that is that they give more subjects than are required under the Pennsylvania homeschool law. So I just wanted to make that point. But it is an option if you don't feel like you have any other options. So
there are no options that are inherently evil
right.
or inherently wonderful. It
right.
really is what matches our budget, which matches most of all my child's needs.
Right.
You know, if my child was in school, or say the local Christian or Catholic school recently, and they're offering testing and allow homeschoolers to come in, my child might think, yay, I get to see my friends again. So it might be a beautiful thing.
True.
But other times it might be a crash anxiety thing that makes my child shut down. Well, then why would I want to do that just because it's free? Yeah. So I need to weigh the big picture and all of those needs. And to back up to that last question, the Stanford Online is offered through CTIN. It runs about $40. And there's a variety. The Online 10 includes what's required plus science and social studies. I'm just looking as we go.
Yeah, thanks.
To see what's available. I just Googled it, and it came up as Stanford 10 Online through Seton Testing Services. So that's another that would be available.
Okay, great. Can you think of anything else that we didn't cover?
I think, if anything, celebrate testing day. Moms convey anxiety because they know their testing experiences from their own schooling times, and they got anxiety. And so the children come in here and say, I'm going to get tested. What's tested? Why am I afraid of something? Sometimes we don't even use the word test. I say, well, we're going to go back in the back room and play with my blue book. You know. So, which brings up another whole issue. With all of this parent stuff and safety things, I'm alone with a child in my home. My office is in my guest room, which is kind of a bedroom. So I keep my clearances up to date. I used to say, Mom, run to Walmart or go down to Salval. It's a Wednesday.
That's a good point.
You know? And now I say, no, please stay here. Bring something to read, whatever. I have toys if you have to bring other children. It's better if you just bring the one being tested because you get to sit down and relax, Mom. But I keep the child sitting closest to the door in that room, and I keep the room door open.
Very good point. Thank you.
And I say to Mom, if you want to come back and see the room, you can. I keep objects on the guest bed, so that they know it's not available to be tampered with.
Yeah.
But you can't be too careful nowadays, and I'm careful because of liability.
Sure.
And I do keep my clearances up to date, but gosh, we can't be too careful anymore.
Well, and I think it's so smart to be proactive. You know, and somebody asked a question, which I was wondering if questions would pop up.
Good, I was hoping so.
You might have covered this, but maybe not specifically. They asked, what's the difference between the Woodcock-Johnson and the Peabody?
I have seen the Peabody picture vocabulary test, which is different, not the achievement test. So they are one-on-one. They do need to be administered by somebody trained in the test. They both give standardized, nationally normed standardized scores. I'm not sure how much more I can answer because I haven't actually given the Peabody. I've thought about should I buy it, but when I buy the Woodcock-Johnson, I'm putting out between $5,000 and $7,000.
Every year?
No, just to purchase the instrument. But then I used to have the WJR, then the WJ3, and now the WJ4. So every time they come out with a new version, I want to give you the most recent up-to-date stuff. So I put money into it, which is why I charge $40.
Sure, yeah.
But I also give you consultation and I'm your cheerleader and your coach and just 100% going for you, which some moms love. Other moms say, I don't want anybody involved in my faith and my life. The autonomy, that's part of homeschooling. So great. That's why there's great online tests, and you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Last year, I had a child that was on the spectrum who loves me and was looking forward to working with me, but had worked himself so far up into anxiety, he couldn't function even though I was in his home with my test. So I said to Mom, come here. I've heard about the California. I'm not that familiar with it. Let's sit at your computer and together learn how to go about it. And that way you can test him when his anxiety is lower, and you can do it for a half hour and walk away or whatever. So to me, it's what does the child need and what's going to help him through it and give you scores to satisfy the law.
Mm-hmm. Somebody else had a question. Are you ready for another question? Ready for another question?
Yes.
For the cat, is it better to test at the grade they are in or the grade they are working at?
I say follow your mama gut. And if you say, I know my child is in grade 3, but working on a grade 5 level, use it to reinforce where you think they are. Use it as your paycheck to say, I've got an accurate read of where my child is. Do not use it as a trophy on the shelf. My kid is 8th grade and they're only in 3rd grade. We get into this trophy mindset sometimes, and we got to be careful about that. But also, we don't want to be giving him, I got to make him look good. He's in 3rd grade. I'll give him the 1st grade test and he'll look good. It's not about that. It's really, Mom, where are you reading the child is working? And go ahead and test at that level as a reinforcement or affirmation that you have an accurate read.
Good point. Very good answer. So I just want to give anybody else a chance to ask some questions. Thank you so much. You've been great. Because I went the simple route myself, I just had no idea what kind of questions people would have. So I'm so glad that you were willing to do this. Okay, here's another question. And
then I have 2 stories that I'd like to share, but go ahead, let's do this question first.
Okay,
that's important.
It says, where do I get information on the different tests available that we can use in PA? So...
do you have a way to post stuff right there, Beth?
Yeah, let me try to screen share. This software is new to me, but...
Well, I can send something through Skype, and if you want to copy and paste it onto Facebook, you can.
I think I can show my screen. Now, I'm assuming that the person means where to...
I just sent the link from the PDE website through Skype.
Okay. Yeah, so first you go to the Pennsylvania Department of Education website. I'm telling this, I just got picture-in-picture. I don't know how to get out of it. But, and then on there, if you scroll down the homeschooling, I think it's under resources. Here, let me try to... I'm
going to post this on our website, too, on our Facebook page, Pennsylvania Homeschool Support.
Okay.
I just posted it there. Yeah, and I'll go in and edit that and say information on testing.
Oh, there we go. I don't know how to screen share, but yeah, go to the PA Department of Education website, and I usually Google homeschooling, and then when you're on the homeschooling page, you scroll down, and there's a link under, I think it's resources. Let me see. Yeah. And it has like a list of approved tests.
Yeah, it's the second of 3 options. It's a PDF file.
Right.
And I just put the link to that right on the Pennsylvania Homeschool Support page. It should be right there now.
Thank you for being tech savvy. So, let's see if we have any other questions.
Okay, so to answer her question, that will give the basic information of the list of required tests. Then I would personally go out and Google each one of those, or the ones that you're most interested in, to see what are the resources, how do I connect with them, do I need to order a paper thing and have somebody else proctor like Beth mentioned at the beginning, or is this something I can do online and the computer will be the proctor? How much is it? How long before I get my test results?
Yeah, that's a good point.
And what's included in that price block?
Mm-hmm.
Is it too much? Is it not enough? Do I need to add extra to get scores in reading, language, and math to satisfy the law?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to make 2 points. Number 1, timing. So that might be a consideration if you wait too long. The evaluation and the portfolio has to be reviewed by the evaluator, and then the evaluator submits a certain verification that an appropriate education has occurred, they'll give you that letter, and you have to submit it to the school district by June 30th.
Be careful with the evaluator doesn't submit anything.
Right.
That was a vocabulary glitch there.
Right.
The evaluator should hand a report to the mom or the dad, whoever, and then they take it to the district or send it in. And in there, I have to verify that there are standardized test results in the portfolio.
Right. If
some people take exception and they interpret that as if I just tell them I did it.
Yeah. No, it should be in the portfolio. The test results should be in the portfolio for the grades 3, 5, and 8. And then so make sure you get your testing done in time for you to hand in what you need to hand in to the school district by June 30th.
However, can I add a caveat to that?
Please.
For the parents who say, I feel comfortable, we have a small little country school nearby and I'm taking them back in to see their friends and get the testing done, the PSSAs, the school district doesn't get their results until the following September.
Oh, that's a good point. Very good.
So what I do is I developed a checklist. I extrapolated the legalese from the law and developed a little checklist form. And I just check. And when it says test results for grades 3, 5, and 8, I check it. And I say tested with the district, awaiting results.
Okay.
And then the district knows, oh yeah, they're going to be in our reports anyway. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
So it's okay if it's not back. I'll just put down awaiting results.
That's a good point. Good point. So did you want to tell your stories?
So one of the things that some people say, I don't want to see somebody individual. I like the online for the autonomy. And yet one of the beauties of our law is it allows Pennsylvania homeschool families to have support systems in place that are optional and not required. That's the beauty of it.
That is nice.
I had one family come to me, and I had known the family forever. And I cover all of eastern Pennsylvania and some western Pennsylvania families. So as far as confidentiality goes, this could be anybody. I'm not telling stories, okay? I'd known the children from the beginning, from on up, and during an 8th grade testing event, I noted the child's behavior was erratic, and there were a lot of extraneous noises and some, I'm going to say, odd behaviors. I knew this child well. So I sat down with Mom and I said, here's the academic test results, and I want to talk to you, what's going on neurologically with your child? Help me understand what you're noticing. She was so relieved that somebody else noticed, but she didn't know if it was imaginary. And I said, I think it might be time to make an appointment with a pediatric neurologist. Don't be surprised if you hear the word Tourette's. And I wasn't diagnosing, but I was able to inform or affirm Mom that she was kind of concerned but didn't want to say anything. And they were able to get that child the help the child needed.
Yeah.
And it was outside of the district. The district didn't even know any of this stuff was going on. It was all autonomous, but I was the support system that was supposedly non-threatening. Another family, I noticed a little boy during spelling wasn't having any S's on the end of his spelling words. I'm trained in deaf and hearing loss, and I said to Mom, can we talk a little bit? I said, he has allergies, doesn't he? There's some crustiness around his nose and his skin tone. He looks like he has a lot of allergies. I wouldn't be surprised if his ears are filled with fluid. I noticed he dropped all the S's off the end of the words. It tells me that there's a hearing issue going on.
Wow.
It might not be a hearing loss. It might be allergies.
Wow.
Go get his hearing tested not once, but 4 times in the year. I want to see seasonal allergies. Because if it's affecting his hearing, it's affecting how he's hearing you in school and his learning.
Wow.
Ended up, all the kids in the family got hearing aids.
Really?
So, it was just weird. But that's where the beauty sometimes of working with an educational consultant. I'll never judge the program. I'll never tell you to use this, don't use that. But sometimes it helps just to have that support system under Mom to help make sure nothing's falling between the cracks.
Yeah, it really is. I know I felt so lucky that in my neighborhood, which is pretty, I think, unusual, that a friend of mine homeschooled right across the street. She is trained as a teacher, but and that was a great resource because we would bounce things off of each other all the time, and there were other people. But her mom, also supported us and did evaluations for my children for a couple of years, and it was just such a nice reassurance and encouragement. She was so supportive, and sometimes you feel really isolated as a homeschooling parent, even if everybody around you supports you. Sometimes they don't understand it. So, thanks for telling those stories. Those are really good stories.
Some people dread our law, and they think that we're so invasive. But I tell one little story if we have 2 more minutes.
Sure.
Dr. Dobson from Focus on the Family told a story about an inner city school. And around the school was a nice playground. And around the playground was a high wall. And the children would go out for recess and burst through the doors and scatter and spread out all over and play and play and play, and then go back in. And some well-meaning citizens said, "Oh my word, our children aren't animals in a zoo. Tear down that wall." And they did. And the children would quietly go out of the door and cluster close to the building to play. Because the wall was a safety boundary. And they had freedom to explore everywhere within that area protected by the wall. Equate our Pennsylvania homeschool law with that wall. It doesn't tell us what curriculum. It doesn't tell us what level curriculum. It doesn't tell us. We have so much freedom to explore within that. That yes, there's some invasion. Yes, there's an evaluator, but you choose who. And if you're your evaluator, go find somebody else. And golly gee, it's nice because you look at the statistics from Homeschool Legal Defense Association and you see all these social workers showing up at the door. And Pennsylvania has very few of those because we have the boundaries and parameters of our law it's like a safe wall around us to give us freedom to explore within.
Well, and I don't disagree that it would be nicer not to have laws. I've never lived in a state where there it was really low regulation, but for sure I encourage everybody to exercise their freedom within and just follow the requirements. Don't over comply. Unless you want
to relax into it and enjoy.
For sure. I think the requirements can be met just by simple and straightforward approach to them. So thank you.
But if you do have an evaluator you're not comfortable with, or if the testing that you're dealing with isn't comfortable, change. It's
Definitely.
Okay. There's a lot of flexibility and freedom.
Yeah. Well, I wish we all had a Patti in our life. No, I am so thankful that you were able to take the time today. And I know everybody got so much information. And so I would encourage everybody to visit Patti's page, your website. What is the URL?
My consultancy is called His Homeschool Center. His being Homeschool Inspirational Support.
Okay.
And so my website is www.his-homeschool-center.com.
Okay.
Or go to I have a Facebook page just called His Homeschool Center, and there's a link there to the website.
Perfect.
And everything on there is free, and there's lots of downloads and handouts and forms that people have found helpful, and other people would say, "Oh, that's too much." Well, then don't use it.
Right.
There's free resources for everybody.
Do you have room in your schedule if somebody wants to hook up with you for either testing or evaluations?
Testing, I have more flexibility, and I have a friend who does backup testing with the same test, who was a homeschool mom and is a trained counselor. So there's flexibility there. My eval schedule is pretty well filled. I do satellite days. I travel around. So if a hostess hosting a day at her home has an opening, I can take new families on those satellite days.
Okay.
But for coming to my house, my schedule's filled, and probably turned away more people than I've accepted.
I know, and I appreciate it because I think you had a fuller schedule to do this today, so thanks for squeezing us in.
It's fun.
Yeah, no, great to talk to you, Patti, and I think that's it. Would you do one of these again on maybe a different topic? Would you
Sure.
be willing to do that? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you
And
so
also,
much.
I hang out there on the Pennsylvania
Yeah.
homeschool support page.
Yeah, you're super helpful there.
Questions, I'm always willing to answer questions there and stuff.
Yeah, super helpful. Well, great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.